Testing, testing. Is it working? Is it paired up? What's up, everybody? So today is Thursday, July 31st or August 1st. Totally forgot to check. But it's the second day of Fiestas, and today I'm gonna be out here protesting my injuries because I was arrested while I was injured, and I was charged $9,000 for failing a civil lawsuit court against the doctor. I've been injured for 6 years, and I've been struggling. To do physical work. My shoulder is not going to improve anymore. I got my range of motion back, but there's no strength to it. And I'm out there to protest, because like there's representatives out there that are fake. They're faking it. There's lawyers out there that are pursuing the law of justice or whatever, like everything they can according to the law of the United States. Like, for example, I was arrested for failing to pay child support because I have a kid, but I was suffering through a separated shoulder, nerve damage, and a winged scapula at the time, and they didn't care. I got arrested, but the doctors didn't get fired. They didn't get nothing. They didn't get held accountable. I got charged $9,000 because I filed my own lawsuit, but before my trial could begin, I was arrested and forced to miss my lawsuit. And the city representatives of Santa Barbara, they told me all they can do for me was 12,500 max. That's all they can do. But just a couple months earlier, they paid themselves $50,000 with the public interest, public money, just to be at the salary at medium pay for all the representatives, like Los Angeles, Ventura, and everything. They're all getting paid more than these people, and so they decided to just pay themselves more. And so what I'm thinking is like these people are fake. If they're gonna do the law, do the law. The doctors, they conspired to obstruct justice, and they obstructed justice by falsifying medical information. They caused an arrest. When I was innocent. So if nothing's gonna happen, I'm gonna come out here and find out why. Why is nothing happening and why there's so many fakes. Like, for example, today is Fiestas. And what does Fiestas represent for the representatives? Like the city attorneys, or the commissioner, the city mayor, the leaders, the people that work for City Hall. What does Fiestas represent for you? If they say it's for us, if they're saying, oh, Fiestas is for the people, then why do they raise the room rates on the hotel? Why do they raise the prices on the food? And why do they raise the prices on the beer? If it's for us, why do they raise that? So they could generate so much money within their own little private community, their private group. And where does the money go? What I'm saying? Like, everybody going down the line of everybody who's involved in the Fiestas parade or the old Spanish Fiestas, they're white. Like, the past 100 years, like, what has Fiestas represented for these white people? There's so much corruption in Santa Barbara, California. I'm gonna point out the fakes, and it's all because I'm tired of it. I'm tired of being bullied. I'm tired of asked out of a real deal, of a proper compensation or a proper settlement, a proper trial, a due process, something that is promised in America and not given to us. That's what I'm tired of. And so I'm going to be out there. I'm going to be protesting. I'm going to show everybody this sign. I'm going to show everybody my evidence. If they don't want to see it, they don't want to see it, but it's out there. It's true. It's 100% real. It's no joke. I'm not a content creator. I'm actually a better poker player than a content creator, but, this does have to get out there, and like I am going to be out there with my evidence. I'm going to be out there with this sign, and I'm going to be interviewing people. What does Fiesta represent? I was arrested while innocent, and, they told me max 12,500 is all they could do for me. But, I mean, they paid themselves $50,000 just a couple months ago with the public interest. With the public money. So to me, they're just faking it. There's a lot of fakes out there, and if you see any city leaders out there in the parade waving to you, they're fake. I wouldn't wave back. They're corrupt. All right, what's up, everybody? I don't know if you can see me, but I'm outside of the courthouse at the famous Santa Barbara Superior Courthouse in the Figueroa Building, and I'm out here just gonna protest a little bit. The same issues that everybody's been protesting. All of the Santa Barbara indivisibles. They've been protesting no kings, no tyrants, and no fake representation, basically. And I'm gonna be out here also. Letting everybody know that that's also what I want, because I was arrested when I was injured with a separated shoulder, nerve damage, and a winged scapula. But I was arrested and charged with the crime, failure to pay child support. And with that being said, I tried to introduce my evidence. They didn't want to see it. And the city leaders and the representatives, what they ended up doing is they ended up telling me that $10,000 is the most they could do for me, that's the max they can do. And for my false arrest, but my false arrest caused me to miss my trial. You know, I had a civil lawsuit against the doctor, and they forced me out of it because they arrested me for failure to pay. Then they told me 10,000 was the most they could do, but they charged me $9,000 for dismissing my civil lawsuit. So basically, they gave me $1,000 for arresting me for 40 days while I was innocent. And so I don't know if you've seen anybody out there with the no king size, no tyrants, and no fake representation. Basically, I'm gonna be out here doing the same thing right outside the courthouse because there's a lot of fake representation in there. They're trying to do the law, but I mean, in my case, they didn't do anything for my daughter. You know, the DCSS attorney, the child case manager, the case worker, the court reporter, the commissioner, everybody involving my case about my daughter, her needs. They're all getting public funding. You know, so far my daughter hasn't gotten nothing because I got arrested. I lost my job. You know, I was doing DoorDash. I was arrested, and everything that they did supposedly was for my daughter, but she doesn't get no money. You know, all the money that's been getting publicly funded has been going to the courts, to the county because I was arrested. I was an inmate. You know, all the public funding has been getting robbed and taken from the people. And so I'm out here today because it is Fiestas, and I'm out here because I'm gonna ask a bunch of these representatives. What does Fiestas mean to them? What is Spanish Days Fiestas? Is it for them or is it for us? If it's for the people, then why do they hire the prices on the hotels? Why do they hire the prices on the food? Why do they hire the prices on the beer? If Fiestas is for the people, then why are they getting all the money and not where are the funds going? In my case, like I said, when I filed the settlement a lawsuit or a complaint versus a public defender for failing to introduce my evidence, they told me that the max they could do was 12,500. That was it. That's all they could do. But just recently, they paid themselves $50,000 public interest on February of this year. Just they paid it to themselves using public money. And I'm talking about the city leaders. I'm gonna go across the street also, and I'm gonna be outside. I don't want any fake representatives. I don't want any racists. I don't want anybody that pretends to be there for the people, but they're there for themselves. They're collecting money for themselves. That's fake. That's corruption, and that's what I don't want in Santa Barbara. I was born and raised in Santa Barbara, and for 100 years, they've been doing fiestas like this. The president is white. The president of the fiestas, he's white. The director is white. Like, you go down the list of everybody, the directors who are involved in the Spanish Days Fiestas, they're all white. All of them, they're all white. I don't know how long this has been going on, but to me, I feel like they're fake. If they're there out trying to represent for my people, for the Spanish people, the Mexican people, I want them to prove it. What is it that they do for us that they're so proud of? They have so much pride and honor in. Because they keep doing this for years and years. Hundreds of years already. And like I said, I was falsely arrested. 40 days. They gave me $12,500, but they charged me $9,000 for failing a civil lawsuit. And that civil lawsuit was a $250,000 lawsuit because the doctor, he separated my shoulder, caused a shoulder separation, AC joint separation, a winged scapula, and nerve damage for 3 fucking years. I couldn't work for 3 years because my shoulder it had a handicap. It was pretty much crippled. I had instability issues. I didn't have any strength in it. I couldn't raise my arm up. I couldn't do much, and the doctors know it. Just recently, April 2025, Dr. Richardson, he fixed my winged scapula. I had a limitation in my shoulder where my shoulder would only go so far. It didn't go all the way up. And so Dr. Richardson just recently fixed that, but it's been 6 years. 6 years that I've been affected, and $12,000 is all they can do, but yet they paid themselves $50,000 in February of 2025 using public funding just so the city leaders can have a bigger pay, just so their salary can be larger, And what are they doing for the people? They're faking us out. They're robbing us. They're stealing our money, and they're giving us minimum. They're raising prices on fiestas, pretending like it's for us, but they're getting all the money. They're collecting all the money, and I don't know what they're doing with it. But I'm out here. I'm trying to protest. I don't want any fake representation. I don't want any fake lawyers. I don't want any fake attorneys. I want them to be real. If they're gonna apply the law 100% to what it is. The doctor should be held accountable as a crime. They should be arrested, and the public defender should be fired. So as you can see, this is all my evidence. None of it was admitted to court. When I filed the complaint versus the public defender, she said all they could do was that much, take it or leave it. I told them if there's nothing I can do about the amount, and I'm forced to take it, there's nothing I can do. I have to take it. She sent me an email to fill it out. I signed it, and then and this year, like I said, they paid themselves $50,000. So I don't know what that was all about. I don't know why they had to lie to me like that, but they did lie to me, and I don't want any fake representation. If they're gonna apply the law to a fullest. With honor. There's honor when it's applied truthfully, when there's a due process. But when you get robbed of that process, there's no more honor. It's considered fake, and that's not what I want. So I'm out here. I'm gonna be out here. I'm gonna be protesting, and these are my evidence. It was never introduced, and my complaint was settled without any evidence on file. So as you can see, it was already done in a corrupt way, and I'm just trying to figure out, what can be done, and or what we can do from here. But like I said, I'm gonna be out here, and I'm outside the famous courthouse, the Santa Barbara Figueroa Courthouse, and today is July 31st, 2025, second day of Fiestas. As you can see, my board right here says "Viva las Fiestas," but we want no kings, no tyrants, and no fake representation. Please, that's a must. There's honor, and there is honor in the law. When you do it with pride. With honor, when there's integrity, then there's a due process. When things get done, properly. There's honor in it. But when you guys do that, when you guys you forced me out of a civil lawsuit on purpose, a no bail order. I also had a disability hearing that I needed to attend to. You didn't let me attend that. And you did all of this because I owed my daughter money, because my daughter needed money. And my two cases were about money, but you didn't let me attend, like that was corrupt. And then you told me 12,000 was max when it's not true, You guys lied to me. You forced me to settle a settlement that was way more, like I should have got way more. And now that I'm still injured, I'm still suffering, I've been struggling to make 5,500 a year. Thanks, man. Hey, appreciate it. I've been struggling to do 5,500 a year doing DoorDash, and the doctors haven't been held accountable. I don't know if the public defender's still working, but I want justice. I want people to be real. If they're going to represent the law, if they're going to be representing the Justice Department, if there's going to be honor in it, then let there be a due process. You can't just dismiss a case. You can't just say, this is all we can do, and then pay yourself 50,000, 5,000, $50,000 more, just because you're a city leader. Like in my case, they told me 12,000 was the max they could do for the false arrest. I was arrested while I was innocent, while I was injured. They said 12,000 was the max, and in February of this year, they paid themselves $50,000 of public money just because they're city leaders, just because they're the representatives. And so my case was worth less than just of them being a representative. Like I was arrested while I had injuries. Like I don't understand how that happened. I do believe they lied to me, and like I don't think the people need people like that. If they're gonna represent the people, there's no reason to tell a lie. Be honest. That's what people want. The DCSS attorney has been getting paid. The manager of the child services have been getting paid. The caseworker has been getting paid. The court officials have been getting paid. Everybody that revolves around my daughter's needs has been getting paid. And so how does this work? How does arresting me work and towards getting my daughter's needs met? So that's why I'm out here. I'm upset. I don't want these fake representatives out here. I don't want them pretending like they're here for the law and for the people of the United States. If they're not going to apply the law with integrity, if there's not going to be a due process, then what they're doing is false. What they're doing is fake, and they shouldn't be doing it anymore. They should be fired. They should be out of here, because what everybody's been saying, we don't want kings, we don't want tyrants, we don't want fake representation. What we want is 100% honesty. What we want is 100% real justice, and that's why I'm out here. That's what I'm looking for. I want honor in the system. I want honor in the Justice Department. And if I was charged with a crime for being a father, for failing to pay child support, the doctors should also be charged with the crime for obstruction of justice, falsifying medical information, conspiracy, etc. They should be arrested, minimum 40 days, and just to see that it does affect you psychologically, emotionally, throughout life. That charge or being arrested is gonna affect you. If those doctors have never been arrested, arrest them 40 days. See what happens with with their job, see what happens with their credibility. It does affect you. It affected me. I was innocent and I was injured. I was suffering through pain and suffering. And I got basically what, $3,000 because I owe $9,000 to court. So they gave me $3,000. To me that's fake. That's racist even because everybody involved in my case, believe it or not, they're all white. The DCSS attorney, he's white. The case manager, she's white. The caseworker, I don't know if she is or isn't, but everybody revolving my daughter's needs, they're white. And my daughter hasn't been getting any public funding, and everybody else has been getting public funding. So to me, that is corruption, that is robbery, that's fake. That's not what America needs. What America needs is honesty, honor, integrity, and truth. They want evidence, they don't want opinions. They don't want assumptions. They want facts. That's what we're looking for, and I'm out here with facts. If they want to take it as evidence, they can take it as evidence. They don't, then that's what it is. But this is what we want, baby. All right, so let's see. Oh, snaps. All right, so I'm gonna walk over to the city hall. So see, right here is the Superior Court, the building, the courthouse. As you can see, it's not too busy today, so I'm gonna go ahead and walk towards the city hall. And to do that, I'm gonna take this cross street. But yeah, this is where I was charged with the crime. Um, I couldn't believe it. I had evidence and everything. I even told her I had evidence. I told her that if they could at least let me attend my disability, and they didn't want to. So I don't know what their deal was, that they had to arrest me because my daughter needed money. But for the past 6 years, they've been getting paid. Like, even though my daughter hasn't been getting paid, I haven't been making those payments. There's still a case manager. There's still a case worker. There's still a DCSS, a child service attorney. There's still a bunch of people that are getting paid, and they're robbing pretty much. They're robbing my daughter. They're robbing me. They're robbing me of my justice, my due process. Like, it's not right. So that's why I'm out here, and this is the way to get there. It's probably the easiest way because it's just around the corner. And as you can see, it wasn't too busy at the court, so I'm just gonna come over here real quick, see if I can catch anybody who wants to, comment, or who also believes in what I'm doing, who wants to support. But yeah, today is the second day of Fiestas, so that being said, it should be starting to pick up a little bit because it's like 10:30 right now. And the fastest way is just around the corner. As you can see, I crossed the street, took a left, took a quick right, and now I'm over here on the corner. I'm gonna try to regain focus. Alright, so I just made that corner. See behind me, I gotta walk a little bit further up, like maybe like another block. But yeah, so the city hall's right behind me. There's that big building up there. So I'm gonna be standing out there for a little bit. I'm gonna see if I can catch somebody to, I'm gonna try to ask them, like what do you think Fiestas is? Like, you celebrate Fiestas or whatever. I don't know how I'm gonna do it, but I'm gonna try to figure out like what it is that for the past 100 years they've been doing. And also I'm gonna ask why they haven't contacted me back after I've emailed each and every one of those city leaders about my case, about that settlement, about that compensation, about that complaint about the public defender, where they told me all they could do is that, like they need to reanalyze that. They need to, what do you call it? They need to relook at that and reanalyze that. They need to, make it proper. That's not right what they did to me. They robbed me, and if they're gonna rob me like that, I'm just gonna go ahead and expose them. So it's just in the corner. But this is the, what do you call it? The clock tower. So as you can see, the second day of Fiestas. Looks like someone's getting married actually. But yeah, it's the second day of Fiestas. That's the clock tower, the courthouse or whatever it's called. But the city hall is just around this corner, just at the corner. This is where I'm heading real quick. Alright. Looks like they're remodeling too. Right. So Santa Barbara County Administrative Building. Made it. So that's the building right there. Oh, alright, so we made it. So this is the Santa Barbara County Administrative Building, the City Hall. Alright, so I don't know if you can see me, but so I'm out here outside the Santa Barbara County Administrative Building, which is the City Hall. Um, and again, these people out here, the Santa Barbara Risk Management Team, which includes Mona Mia Soto, um, Greg Milligan, and Madeline Orr, I believe. Um, what they decided to do is they decided to lie to me, and they told me that $12,500 was the max they could do for my false arrest. Um, which basically they arrested me while I had a separated shoulder, a winged scapula, and nerve damage. And they arrested me because I owed child support, but I was telling them that I couldn't pay because I was injured. I had evidence, and I tried to introduce it, but they didn't want to. They didn't want to see it. I got arrested, and so what they ended up doing is they ended up giving me $12,000, but they charged me $9,000 for the court fees. So basically, they gave me $3,000 for a 40-day false arrest, and what they did to me was wrong. The Santa Barbara Risk Management Team, they don't understand that 6 years being injured like that, $10,000, that's pennies. To me, I believe it might have been even racist because everybody who's involved in my daughter's case is white, and like I don't think they're doing in the best interest of my daughter. I think what they're doing is the best interest for themselves. 40-day false arrest, which they made me, which caused they caused me to miss my civil lawsuit, and it caused me to miss my disability hearing. And then the administrative judge, he based his decision on my arrest, is what I think, because he didn't want to look at my evidence. He said everything was late or tardy, and gave a big excuse, and then he didn't give me a disability, even though for 6 years I couldn't work. um, so with that being said, if I get arrested again, I believe it's bullshit. I don't believe in the United States Constitution or law, because if they're not going to give me a due process, if they're going to deny me my right to introduce evidence, and then they're going to, settle a complaint versus the public defender without evidence on file, that's corruption in itself. Um, and not, what the Santa Barbara individual team has been doing, they've been protesting, no kings, no tyrants, and no fake representation. And that's exactly what I'm gonna be doing today, because this is what our city leaders of Santa Barbara, this is who they are. They're fake. I don't trust them. I don't believe them. They're not here for the people. And I'm here to ask, what is Fiestas to you guys? Representative shouldn't lie to the people, because the people entrust in the representative. And if they're gonna be lying to the people, I believe they should all be fired. I don't believe in these representatives. I don't believe in these leaders. I don't believe in the leadership. I don't believe in the presidency even. From the bottom all the way to the top. I do believe it's corrupt, because my false arrest. Should speak for itself. How are they gonna pay me $3,000 for a 40-day false arrest and charge me $9,000 for failing a court appearance, due to that same false arrest? The city leaders know it. The risk management team knows it. And I'm also gonna let the people know that these people get paid bi-weekly, $15,000, $6,000 to $15,000 bi-weekly. And 6 years I was injured with pain and suffering, plus my false arrest. And they gave me 10,000. What I'm saying, like that's corruption right there. And that's not the leadership that Santa Barbara needs. So I'm out here, protesting the same thing. No kings, no tyrants, no fake representation, from the leadership of Santa Barbara. And if they're here for the people, let it be shown. Like prove it. I want to see it. You know what? I think I'm gonna stand in front of the public defender's office, and then go to the district attorney's office, and then go back to my car. Um, it is getting pretty late, and I don't know if the representatives are gonna come out of the office anytime soon. Maybe at lunchtime. I don't know. I might have missed them coming in. So, with that being said, I might head out a little bit. Like I said, I'm out here outside the district attorney's office. I have this no kings. As you can see, the no kings, no tyrants, no fake representation. Um, I've been out here. I talked to the guy. I've talked to a person out here before. Unfortunately, nothing has been done, about my false arrest. And to me, that's bullshit. Like there's a lot of fakes out here. If they're going to be applying what is considered the law, on behalf of the people, then apply it with integrity, apply it with honor, have there be due process. When that gets robbed from the people, that's corruption. That's fake, and there's nothing honorable about that. They shouldn't have hold their heads up with pride with that. Like I said, I was charged 40 days an arrest, no bail. When I got out, I was in a lot of pain because I had a separated shoulder, a winged scapula, and nerve damage. When I got out, I was in a lot of pain, and they told me 12,000 was the max they could do for me. Take it or leave it. I told them, if there's nothing you can do, if that's the max you can do, I'm gonna have to take it. I'm not gonna leave it. And they said, great, sign. I signed it, and then in this year they paid themselves $50,000 just to be at medium. But they also charged me $9,000 for failure to appear at that civil lawsuit. So they only paid me $3,000 for the 40 days false arrest. That they forced me out of my disability hearing. They forced me out of my civil lawsuit, and they told me 12,005 was the max, but they paid themselves 50,000 just this year. With that being said, I think there's a lot of fakes, a lot of corruption, and I did speak to an investigator here before, but I feel like he's already ready to retire. Like he's had too much. This guy once put away his own colleague for having an unbrandished gun. He charged him with the crime, and ever since then, I don't know if ever since then he's just not charged anybody with the crime, but ever since then, that fool does like he doesn't want to do any work. He doesn't want to put anybody away. Like the doctors need to be in jail right now. Either fired or in jail because what they did to me, they fucked up my shoulder for life. I can't fucking work anymore. My shoulder has no strength. It's very weak. I barely have my range of motion back, but 6 years injured. They cost me my job. It cost me my relationship with my daughter. I didn't get to see her grow up because her mother didn't let me see her, and all for what? Because the doctors didn't want to get held accountable because they didn't want to admit a failed surgery. That's bullshit. And these guys don't want to. They don't want to hold anybody accountable anymore because they feel bad. That's bullshit. To me, there's no integrity in that. If they're gonna be representing the people and representing the law, then let there be integrity in a due process. Let there be integrity and a compensation. Don't bullshit the people. Don't lie to the people and tell them all we have is $1 when you guys are paying yourselves hundreds of dollars. That's bullshit. And to me, I feel like everything is fake. Even Fiestas is fake. Like what does Fiestas represent for these leaders? What does it represent? Is it for us? If it's for us, then why do they hire the prices? Why do they hire the beer prices, the food prices, the housing prices? And where does all that money go? To these fuckers. These fuckers are robbing us, and I'm tired of it, I don't want. The Santa Barbara individual has been out here protesting no fake kings, no this and that because, Donald Trump, but they're doing the exact same thing to my people. And that's what I don't like, and that's what I'm out here protesting. I'm not asking for help. I'm just letting people know there is corruption out here. There's fake people, fake representation. There's tyranny. There is tyranny. There's fake representation. There's racist people out here. Yes, there's no doubt.
There's no doubt about that in some ways, but there's also, I want the world to also know that in the police station there are beautiful police people who are there to do what they can.
Oh yeah, I have nothing against police. No, like there's not. It's about the city leader, the police, the.
Among the city leaders,
I have more respect for warriors. What do you call it? Trained professional people like that know how to that they're to serve or entertain, even to entertain. Because they're healthy. They're active. They're active. They're like. I have more respect for those people. I have nothing against the police officers because they act on if it's a violent offense or if it's if there's a problem, they'll act on it. They're the ones who act on it. Other people, they're not going to act on it. Let's say you have a problem and you're getting jacked and a civilian's walking by there. The civilian most likely is not going to do nothing. The officer's going to do nothing. I have nothing against these officers. What I have is against tyranny, the fake representation. Like these officers, they're trained to do what they do. Like that's not fake. That's real. Like that's what what I'm saying. What I have is against is the fake people.
Okay, well, I can't. Like I said, I will. I didn't plan on taping this.
Yeah.
I will see. I have friends who do. What do you call those things?
The-
See, I don't even know. I don't go on the computer because I can't remember the passwords. It's just. I find it too difficult. So my life gets limited because.
Maybe just understanding, yeah, because like apart from everything, when you go to jail, someone small like me, you're gonna eventually find problems with someone bigger that has nothing to do about and irrelevant to the problem with my daughter, you know. So nothing gets solved. It's just more problems. And so,
Yeah.
like I'm saying, someone my size to get arrested for being a father and being put in a jail cell with criminals. You know what I'm saying? Like people who deserve to be there. That like that doesn't. It's not an outcome. It's not a solution. And you know, like we do need something does need to be done because I've been wrong. I feel like I've been wronged hard.
And I see. I you know what one thing. But anyway, so like I said, I wish you the best. And
Yeah.
I'll like I said, I'll send this to somebody. It's a conversation. Who knows what may come
Yeah.
out of it? But that's all I can do.
Yeah.
All right.
Cool. Thank
It's
you.
a pleasure.
A
We'll see
pleasure
you later.
meeting. Yeah. All right, so I'm right here on State Street and De La Guerra. It's the second day of Fiestas. As you can see behind me, it's barely 11, so it's not too packed. But as you can see, it's second day of Fiestas. Um, some vendors out here. Here, let me turn this around real quick. Take you to a tour real quick. So this is De La Guerra Plaza. I'll show you guys what it looks like. So you got some drinks, some little ice drinks. Let's see what else. $3 for a soda, $2 for water, um, and then $5 kid size, $7. Then here's the prices right here. So $7 for a king size, $6 classic. Whoops. What kind of flavors they got? Ooh, look at the flavors over here. So they got a bunch of flavors. They got the red, green, blue, orange, purple, red again. And then they've got brown, red, yellow, and pina coladas. All right, let's take a trip over here. I'm not trying to get a $2 water. All right, so it's basically kind of the same thing almost every year. You see, you'll have stands, sellers, vendors, food, and then people walking by in De La Guerra Plaza. Yeah, I'll show you some of the stuff that they sell. You got these hats. William. What else? The Katrina Folk Arc. Got more shirts. Let me see. Oh, nice. Ventura. This is De La Guerra Plaza. Oh, there's a nice sweater up there. Cool. All right. Oh, nice. Oh shit, they have a little dance going on. Let's check it out. So, it's like there's a market for specifically for females. Like we got baskets, fanners, and then I think and there's little kids dancing. So I'll show you guys real quick.
Just want to let the audience know thank you for cheering them on.
Oh, they finished. Damn it.
Or I had planned to find a young man that would serve as a little torito, and when the girls stretched the skirt out, and they said, "Ha, toro," then the bull would come through. But I'm sorry, we couldn't find a 5, 6, or 7-year-old bull. If you know of one, give them Cruise Dance and Entertainment phone number. I would be happy to buy them the biggest toy. I'd be happy to pay them. It would be a very important part in our dance. And the girls survived it. You saw that. They did very, very well. We're going to continue with Vera Cruz Bamba. Young ladies, if you would come forward. Thank you. Yes, we like that. Woo! And música, por
Interesting. I came by the city hall or whatever, by the Delegate Plaza, and checked this out. All right, we got some protesters. Pretty cool. All right, nice. Even in fiestas, they don't stop. All right, all right. Let's check out. I wonder if there's an entrance over here.
Sophia and Amaya. Beautiful job, ladies. Again, that was the state of Sinaloa. We're gonna move on to the northern region of Mexico, the Norteño region. We have a couple songs for you from the Norteño region, starting with El Cerro de la Silla, followed by La Norteñita. Viva la fiesta! El Cerro de la Silla is from the states of Nuevo León.
It's hot out here. I'm telling you. I'm looking for something to drink. I've only been out here for like half an hour, and I'm sweating. I took off my sweater. They got some bomb ass food behind me. Got some churros. They also have quesadillas. What is that groovy swervy? $2. Hey, I see something that's $2. Let me see if it really is $2. What is this? Oh, it's the ranch is $2. The ranch is $2. All right. So as you see, there's not that many people here yet. Still kind of empty a little bit, as you can see. But it's early and it's freaking hot.
Final song for you, we've got from the state of Chihuahua.
Let me see if I can get something to eat. I'm hungry. I'm hungry and thirsty now. But I think I might just walk over to 7-Eleven. It's a couple blocks over. I think the drinks are $2 instead of like 10. I don't know why they jack up the prices, but I kind of do know why. Because the reps, the representatives, the leaders, the government, everybody that faking it for the people and really connecting it and taking it from us. That's where it's going. Alright, $5 churros. That's expensive. Alright, $5. Damn it, I kind of want one. $5, Chad. I think I want one. Alright, so I'm gonna get a churro. Just because. Can I get one? Yeah. One churro. $5. I know I got hungry. But I mean, I came up yesterday at the 1-3. I made like 40-50 bucks, so I think I can afford a $5 churro right now. This is what I miss. Like if I could get 3 for 10, that'd be fucking nice. Like if there could be like a Santa Barbara deal, like a Spanish Days local deals where, if you're a local, you show Santa Barbara ID, you can get 3 for 10. That would be nice for Fiestas. Come on, city leaders, let's get it done. Yeah, you see, there's not hardly any people here, but I mean, it's still early. It's fucking hot as fuck. I was gonna get some water, but it costs $4 over there. And I think there's a 7-Eleven just 2 blocks down, so I'm gonna go to 7-Eleven. Alright. So I'm just gonna.
All right, Santa Barbara, how are we doing out there? Are we melting in the
Turn this
sun? Are
around.
we okay? Okay. We're going to kick things off with Sevillanas. Sevillanas are performed in pairs, a very traditional dance. And we're going to have all levels of dancers from Puro Flamenco up here.
Alright, so see this little side street? They always have this every year. Fiestas just behind the concert. But you'll always see this setup over here. They got a bunch of stuff. Little monitos, they got hats, they got toys. You can see. But yeah, they got a bunch of toys and a bunch of hats, a bunch of little cool souvenirs. It's only right here by with the concert or the backstage. So there's a little side street by the backstage, and it's like you'll see this little mercadito. Oh, those are cool guitars. I have one of those. But yeah, it's a cool little setup. Got a bunch of cool little toys and stuff for the children. Souvenirs if you want. I'm gonna go down the street because I'm thirsty. I think 7-Eleven should be to the left of here too. So this is a little stepping out of the De La Guerra Plaza. If I take a left over here, I think 7-Eleven should be over here. So yeah, and all the confetti eggs that you guys can buy. Yeah, I'm gonna go to 7-Eleven. I'm thirsty. That churro fucked me up. Best barbecue. Oh snap, jewelry. Alright, I found 7-Eleven. So I'm just gonna get a drink real quick because, like I said, I was gonna go get a drink from one of those stands, but it was $4 to $7. And if I just go over here to 7-Eleven, I'm pretty sure they'll still be like $2-3, $2 overpriced, but not like $10 overpriced. So let's check it out. Well, guys, that's the second day of Fiestas. It's early in the morning. It's getting hot. I think I'm gonna go out get something to eat. But here's a little summary of what it was like on July 31st, 2025. Also, guys, if you've never been here to Pedro's Tacos, it's out here in Los Angeles, across the street from the Gardens Casino. I came out here to try it, and I ordered a guarache, and that's the beast that they gave me. I was like, what the fuck? Am I gonna finish that? Yup. Yes, I am. I'm alpha male, baby. I can finish anything, even a torta.